Hey everyone, Season 2 has just started and I want to showcase you my Poison Rogue build that I believe will be one of the strongest builds in the game. Unfortunately, I became sick in the last week, so I couldn't upload this video earlier, so sorry for that, but I hope it still reaches you in time. So, Poison Rogue, I think will be very powerful this season. And there are many reasons for that. So the first reason is that there will be new Uber bosses, which also will drop Uber uniques from Duriel. And I think Uber bosses will take a big part in the current season, in the endgame. So having a build that is capable of quickly and consistently killing these new bosses is a very good thing to have. And Poison Rogue in the past used to be a very good archetype for killing bosses such as Uber Lilith. So that's one reason why Poison is very good in general. The second reason is there have been many changes regarding damage calculation in the game. So in my last video, you can find it on my channel, I have explained how this changes change the game and have influence on especially vulnerable damage and critical strike damage. So now it's no longer that good to maximize these two affixes on your gear. And one big advantage of poison builds, especially for rogue, I can show you quickly in paint. So this is like the regular damage calculation Diablo 4. You can watch my video if you're interested in the details. And for poison, it just works a little bit different. So you also have your vulnerable damage, you have your critical, that's the first difference. So you have your vulnerable damage, but you don't have critical strike damage in this calculation, because with poison you can't crit. It's a damage over time effect, and damage over time effects don't crit. So you have vulnerable, you have all the other damage affixes, like damage with poison, with all damage versus crowd-controlled enemies and so on. Then you have your attribute, so dexterity for rogue. And actually they are all multiplied, not added. So these are the damage buckets. And then for poison rogue especially, you have a unique, like another unique damage bucket, which is your core skill damage added with your cutthroat damage. So these two values added together are also an own damage bucket within the poison damage calculation. So this is unique to the poison rogue class only, I believe. If they didn't change it, there is a possibility they made some hidden bug fixes or something like that. But in the past it used to work like this. So even though vulnerable damage and crit damage got nerfed, you still have your core skill damage and cutthroat damage as an own damage bucket in poison. And so this is a huge damage buff to in the current season for poison. So it's a big relative buff, you can say. So this is the second reason. You have a very nice damage calculation formula kind of for poison. And the third reason is we have new uniques, and also many aspects, or some aspects got rebalanced. And one big change for Poison Rogue is the Bursting Venoms aspect. So Bursting Venoms aspect was always a very important one for the Poison archetype. And what it basically does is it creates, like, you have a chance to create a poison pool, and while standing in this poison pool you can cast your poison imbuements without cooldown, without charge. So you can spam endlessly poison humans. And it used to have a condition that you need to critical strike your enemies before, and now after the patch they just removed this completely, so you don't need to crit your enemies anymore. And they also have buffed the lucky hit chance by 5%. So now it just says you need to get the lucky hit, and then you have a 15% chance to create this toxic pool. And this is a huge buff actually. And I believe that this aspect, and together with the aspect of Pestilent, which also casts Poison Imbuement on your Puncture skill, these are just enough with some amount of lucky hits on your items. So also we are playing Ashara's Kanjar for additional lucky hits on your items. That this should be just enough to consistently kind of proc this bursting venoms aspect, I believe, so far. Yeah, but this is all theory crafted, I have to say. I have not reached the end game yet on my rogue, so I will update you when I hit this point. So yeah, we have some changes here, and also some uniques got updated. So basically all uniques in the game got stronger, and I really appreciate these changes. And to mention one example here, Grasp of Shadow, I believe, will be a very powerful unique in the end game, because they have just buffed the amount of ranks to all core skills. So now it's doubled. So I believe this should give you now up to +6 to all core skills. So this is pretty huge. Makes your Twisting Blades stronger. And also, since we don't need to play with Critical Strike this season, or at least with Poison Rogue, so with the with the buff to aspect of Bursting Venoms, we have just no reason to play with Critical Strike chance at all. So we can completely go with 0% critical strike chance, and that's why Grasp of Shadows are a very nice pair of very nice gloves. So we have this buff to all core skills ranks, and then the other stats are also kind of decent. We have attack speed, we have dexterity. So these two are your best affixes you can have on gloves actually. So yeah, very nice affixes. And if they have fixed the unique effect, so you also will have a lucky chance to cast, like to summon a shadow clone, which mimics your attacks. So this basically means you are kinda doubling your damage, or at least increasing it by 60%, depending on how much damage your shadow clone does. So yeah, I think Grasp of Shadows will be very good. Then you can see Harlequin Crest. I'm quite optimistic for that one. So I think in this season you will be able to farm the super uniques. And I think after, I don't know, 200 Uber kills, or I don't know, 100 to 200 Uber Duriel kills, maybe will drop something like the Harlequin Crest. So this build is like an endgame build. So this is like the best in slot gear. So I'm showing you the gear that I will be chasing in the late game. So of course you won't have a Harlequin Crest in the beginning of the game. But until you find it, you have many options here. You also have the other unique helmet, which increases your lucky hit chance. This will be very good too. You have the new unique helm, which like says stunning or freezing elites will increase your damage, so you can also play with some stun freeze interactions maybe. So you have a lot of different options for your helmet, or just take a regular rare helmet and put a defensive aspect on it. So helmet is not a big of a problem until we find the Harlequin Crest. So yeah, Parent and Grief still very important uniques. They didn't change because they were always one of the best uniques already for Rogue. So yeah, these are the 4 uniques I would play in the end game. And then the other aspects, so we have aspect of corruption on our ranged weapon. Just like in the last season, it's the best aspect to increase your damage with poison imbuement. So that's why we put it on the two-hand weapon. Then my other weapon is, yeah, like I mentioned, the poison, like the pestilent aspect of pestilent points. Then of course Blade Dancers for Twisting Blades, it's very non-brainer. Bursting Venoms. Then on the Amulet, we still want to play with Disobedience. This aspect also got buffed, it's up to 66% now, so armor values got buffed in the game. It will be much easier to reach the armor cap. I will also drop a video about armor cap in the next season, like for this season. So yeah, still very good defensive aspect. The other defensive aspect we are playing is aspect of might on the pants, so 20% more damage reduction. And the last one on the chest armor, aspect of quickening fog. So we are playing with dash, and every time we cast dash we will drop a smoke grenade, which also got buffed a little bit, so now you deal 25% more multiplied damage to enemies affected by smoke grenade. And damage multipliers are very important in this season because of the nerfs we had with vulnerable damage and critical strike damage. So I think aspect of quickening fog also very good for mobility and damage, so both combined, very good aspect. So yeah, these are my aspects. On the weapons, I can suggest you playing with Amethyst to increase your damage over time. Then steel rubies for maximum life in the armor, and I think resistance will matter more than armor in the jewelry, but I can't say that for sure now, so we will see. So now let's take a quick look at the skills. We still are playing with Puncture, obviously, because we are playing with the Pestilent aspect, and Puncture is still one of the best, or maybe the best, basic skill. Then of course we maximize Twisting Blades, and this time we are playing with Advanced Twisting Blades. Because we don't need dazing our enemies, we have a Quickening Fog aspect, which also dazes enemies, so a Smoke Grenade. Then Sturdy for close damage reduction. We don't need Stiffening Strikes this time, because we don't play with critical strikes, and we have another very efficient way to heal. I will show later. So then we want to play with Shadow Step as always, and with Dash. 3 points into Master, Weapon Mastery. And here I just had 1 point left, so I put it into Rapid Gambits, but yeah, just it's like the last point. So here Smoke Grenade, like I mentioned, you have now 25% damage multiplier with Smoke Grenade. So this will interact with our Quickening Fog aspect. Then we're playing with Poison Trap, of course, and you deal 10% more poison damage, so good for our Poison Imbuement. Then we maximize Exploit and Malice for more damage. We max out Poison Imbuement for more damage, and this time instead of Blended Poison, we go with the Mixed Poison, so lucky hit chance to double our poison damage. Then we put 1 point in Deadly Venoms to put 1 point into Alchemical Advantage for attack speed, and then 3 points for more damage reduction by poison enemies. We max out Frigid Finesse for another 15% damage multiplier for chilling enemies, because we have Penitent Griefs, we can chill. So many things like in the last season here. Here's some new thing. I'm playing with Innervation and Alchemist Fortune. I want to maximize lucky hit chance by 15%, and also like have a chance to get energy. And here as always I like to put 3 points into haste. And now the interesting part, they have also changed to passives. So close quarters combat will be very strong now, I believe. So if we will stack crowd controlled, like damage to crowd control enemies in our gear and Paragon, we will deal 40% of our total value of crowd controlled damage as an additional multiplier. So if you have 200% damage versus crowd control, you will deal 80% multiplied damage to all enemies. If you have this, like if you have both of the stacks of close quarters combat, which is very easy to achieve, you just need to alternate between Puncture and Twisting Blades when you attack. So yeah, it's very easy to achieve, and I think this will boost your damage by a lot. And I think this season you don't need to play with momentum in the end game. Momentum was very good because of damage reduction, but in this season you have many ways to like you have with the vampiric powers, you have two very good ones which will increase your effective health kinda and also damage reduction. So yeah, I think we can play with close quarters combat, or at least try it out. I can't do much with Paragon right now. I will update this when I reach the point where I have reached a certain level. But yeah, this is the basic idea. And so the vampiric powers, here, the first one, Undying, I think you get it right in the beginning after the first quest line. And this is a very good one. So you just heal up to 3% life, and this doubles when you're below 50% of your life. And you this heal appeals for every cast of each skill. So, for example, Puncture, we can cast Puncture very quickly as a basic skill. So I think in 1 second we can cast like 3 punctures and 1 twisting blades. So this will already count as 4 times 3% life. So we will heal a lot with Undying, I believe. So very, very good vampiric power. Then we have this interaction here between a Curse Touch. So this one allows us to curse our enemies with the Vampiric Curse. And after the enemies have Vampiric Curse, we can profit from Flowing Veins. So cursed enemies will, we will deal 60% increased damage over time to enemies which are cursed. So this is a multiplicative damage increase, I believe. So this will further increase your poison damage. And I think this combination is what makes it really strong in this season. So a huge damage multiplier here. Then the other big defensive vampiric power is Resilience. I think this one is overlooked by many content creators. So you get 1% damage reduction for each 2% life you're missing. So let's say you're missing 50% life. So this would mean that you will get 20% damage reduction, if I'm not wrong. So, no, 25 even. Sorry, 25. So it's a very strong one. And if you are about to die, so if you have like lost 95% of your life, let's say, then you will reach nearly 50% damage reduction, which is just huge. So I think alone with Resilience and with Undying, you will have a lot of effective health this season, and it will be very hard to die in the endgame content, like in the high tier nightmare dungeons. And the last one, this one is the most optional. So this 4 core, and the last one is more optional, and this one just gives you up to 20% attack speed and 15% movement speed. So just a good vampiric power overall. But if you have other ideas, then I would suggest switching up this spot here. So yes, these are the skills and the gear and vampiric powers for this build. As I said, there are some changes in the Paragon board, I believe, which were not in the patch notes, I heard, so I will wait for Paragon for that reason. But you can just also check out my other videos which I made in the previous season. So it will be roughly the same, I believe. For example, this video here, Best Poison Rogue. I also have some Poison Rogue builds, and the Paragon board will not vary that much from that. So yeah, but we will see. I will update this build when I level up a little bit. Last thing I forgot to mention, we are playing with combo points, so you want to cast a few punctures before you cast Twisting Blades for your optimal resource regeneration and damage with combo points. So yeah. Also, maybe last thing to mention, you should check my last video, like I mentioned, if you want to understand how the recent vulnerable damage, critical strike damage changes like how they changed the game. But basically with poison, you want to focus on, like I mentioned, core skill damage, cutthroat skill damage, and dexterity. So these three things are your best in slot affixes for damage. And because we are playing with the new buffed close quarters combat passive, you also want to stack crowd control damage. So these four affixes are your damage scalars for this build. So again, core skill damage, cutthroat skill damage, dexterity, and damage to crowd control. And to be clear, you need to have damage to crowd control. So like damage to poisoned enemies will not count into this bucket, I think. So it really needs to be damage versus crowd control enemies. So yeah. Okay, now that's my build. I hope you enjoy the season, and I will update you later this week, I believe. So have fun until there, and see you in the next one. Bye bye.